Well, let's get started. Um, I'd like to have more conversations than lecturing and talking at you. I'd like to talk with you. And today, I guess, we're discussing leadership and some of the elements of leadership that you may be interested in. So feel free to raise your hands, ask questions. Is there a chat that students will be reaching us out?
Not right now.
Okay, okay. So I think it's important that I tell a little bit of my story. I came to Utah at the age of 18 back in 1980. I came here to play football at the University of Utah, and as an 18-year-old, I had no idea even where I was going when I decided that I was going to come here. I came here on a recruiting trip. Of course, they give you all the, popcorn and fireworks when you're here, so you don't really get to see what's going on. But I quickly realized that from the coaching staff and the other student athletes that I met, that this was probably a really good place for me to come. And my father also wanted me to go somewhere I could grow up. So I was very fortunate that I took his advice and came to Utah and started my pathway on learning how to develop my skill sets and how to grow as an individual. And when we talk about leadership, that's probably the most important thing we have to realize is that you really can't make yourself a leader, but you can make yourself better as a person to become a better leader. And it's really critical that you keep that in mind. We are in the process, you're in the process right now of personal development, and that has to be continuous throughout your life. I finished 3 certificates this year, 2 at the University of Utah, 1 at Cornell, just because I wanted to develop some skill sets. And a lot of my friends and my peers were like, "You're crazy, what are you doing? You're spending every night doing this." And of course, timing was a big part of it. My kids are grown. I've got my 6th grandchild on the way. But it gave me that time to be able to do that. But I also realized that I was making the time to develop myself. I wasn't just saying, okay, I'm going to fill this space with something to do. I still had to make the time because I'm very busy at work. I'm very busy with the number of boards that I serve on. And I have to work intentionally to get to where I want to be. And I believe that as leaders, we have to do that every single day. We have to do that every moment, is to constantly think about how we're going to develop ourselves. If you're running a business, you have to figure out, how am I going to continue to make my business profitable? How am I going to make my business viable to the customers I want to reach? As students, we have to think about, how am I going to put in the work that's going to make me an effective student? How am I going to get better at the social side of school? How am I going to get better at understanding what my instructors need from me? And that takes a whole lot of different things that we have to encompass when we talk about leadership. We talk about communication, our interpersonal interactions, the soft skills that are just constantly bombarded as an element for us these days. And now, one of the things that I'm really trying to learn is this total influx of technology. All these different technologies that we have to consider as part of our growth process as we develop as leaders. So, to take a step back, I talked about leadership coming from within. One of the things that we have to do to become a leader is we have to get to those scary places and stay put. We can't run from the tough stuff. We can't run from the things that make us uncomfortable. Because 9 times out of 10, if you can get over that little barrier of being uncomfortable and being afraid, and I call that the ultimate 4-letter word, fear, you're going to start to see the benefits of going through that process. It's not just getting through that barrier, but it's everything you've done up to that point to get to that barrier that become part of your arsenal. It becomes part of your strength. And that's what we're talking about here too, is building our strength continuously as an individual. People gravitate to those that understand a varied amount of information. Really being tunnel vision and focused on one thing is not really conducive to growth. We have to move from a fixed mindset. That fixed mindset puts us in places where we can't move. We can't budge. We can't see other things that are outside of ourselves, our environments, or the society around us. So we have to move from that fixed mindset to a mindset of growth. And that growth has to be continuous. We have to think about ways to grow. We have to think about those pathways that we may not have even considered before in the past. Think about the things that you're learning in school right now, where you say, oh, I'm not going to do that. That is one of those triggers that I'm talking about. When you think of something and say, I'm not going to do that, that may be too hard, or that doesn't make sense to me. That's where you want to go investigate. The things that are easy are going to come easy to you. And they're easy for a reason. You've already got the skills, or the experience, or the knowledge that it takes to get through those things. It's taking on those burdens that really are difficult, that make all the difference in the world. So, when I came here in 1980, I came from Southern California, where I was, a captain of a football team. But back in the 60s, I was one of the third classes of a group of students that were bused to desegregate our school system. Our superintendent of schools in 1965 in Riverside, California, decided that he was going to do reverse desegregation before the country provided him with a court order to desegregate the schools. So he built a school called Lowell Elementary that was about 2 blocks away from my house on my side of town. And he was going to bus white students into that school versus sending black students to other schools. So 2 days before Lowell Elementary was to open up, amazingly there was a fire, burned the entire school down. So they ended up shifting the program to where we were bused into one of the most affluent schools in our city. From that experience, I really didn't realize at that age, this was in 1968 when that took place, I didn't realize at that age that I was actually a recipient of the hard work and leadership of the people in my community to be able to get us to go to a better school in a better neighborhood. I just thought, why am I being punished? Why can't I go to school with all my friends? Why can't I stay in my own neighborhood? Why do I have to go somewhere where I'm different from everybody else? And there were probably about 2 buses of us that went over. So my class averaged 4 to 5 minority students in each class, all the way through elementary school, which was pretty difficult for me. But again, I had to realize that, listening to my parents and there's people in my neighborhood, that I had an opportunity, and I had to get over the fear of integrating myself into my community, my school community, so that I could grow. And this busing program went on through junior high school, all the way through high school. My high school we had a team of 40. We cut everything down to about 40. We had 11 minority students or student athletes on our football team. So when I came here to Utah, this is where I'm getting to, it wasn't a big shock to me. A lot of the guys I came here to school with, the same class of 30 guys, were from Compton, Inglewood, places where they got to go to school with their friends and their neighbors and all those type of things. And they were always wondering, why are you not, so uncomfortable? I said, I've been through this before. I understand it. So those were the skill sets that I had built to that point. Now the barriers for me were college. I went through high school and my parents were big on school, so I had to keep up a certain GPA, but I just skirted by. I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to really truly lead. I thought of being a captain of a football team, I used to say, "Come on, guys, let's go." And it didn't work that way in the real world. It was a whole different mindset once I got to college, where I was told and was expected to perform based on my own skill sets. There was nobody going to hold my hand. That was the first time I saw a huge wall in front of me. And I had to figure out, how am I going to get past this wall? So I was consciously thinking about, methods. How can I get to this professor? There's 200 students in this class. They don't know me from Adam. I thought the best way to do it is knock on the door. I thought the only thing they could do is really, punch me in the mouth. And I know they're not going to do that. So I'm going to step through this door. And I started doing it. I started knocking on the doors of the professors and saying, I'm struggling. I don't get it. I don't know how to study for this. I don't understand this. I said, I'm never going to use algebra. Why am I in here? And they would explain to me, these are the things you're gonna do. The biggest thing I understood and learned from that experience by going to them is that people want to help those that want to help themselves. And that is critical if we're moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. They want to help people with that growth mindset. They want to hold your hand. They want to mentor you. They want to guide you. They want to sponsor you. And we have to be aware of that when we go into business, when we graduate from school. Never be afraid to ask somebody for that help because they want to help those that want to help themselves. And if we want to grow as individuals, we have to be willing to ask for that help. We can't be embarrassed. We can't be hesitant. We can't think that this is a stupid question that I'm going to ask this person and they're going to laugh at me. Because, we've all heard it. There are no stupid questions. The dumbest question there is the one that's never asked. So step outside of yourself and talk to the people that you want to be mentored by. Ask the questions. Entrepreneurs, that's one thing they do a lot of, is they ask everybody everything. And they develop their own skill sets from all the different answers. You're not going to follow everything, word for word or note for note that people give you, but you're going to take bits and pieces and grow from those. You're going to develop your own self, and that's really critical when you're a leader. Same thing happens when you get into politics. Don't do it. Just don't worry, don't do politics. But when you get into political positions, you have to be able to navigate these relationships. You have to be fearless in going and asking questions. Because the impact and influence that you have once you get to certain positions of leadership are critical to be putting together a system that's conducive to your growth and also those that you're impacting. So 2 years ago, I'm almost done with this term, was appointed to backfill a position for the Utah State Board of Education. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I just said yes, because I thought, hey, I got a chance to be here. I never ever thought I'd have an opportunity to serve the state in this capacity, or to serve the students from K to 12 in this capacity. I'm just doing it. And I went home and told my wife, hey, guess what? I'm getting ready to be on the State Board of Education. She said, what? And she says, well, where did that come from? I said, I don't know. I got a call, and I'm going to do it. And she said, well, do you know what you're doing? I said, no, I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm going to figure it out. And then starting that evening, I started researching the people I can get in touch with. And the person that connected me with this opportunity said, call me anytime. And she didn't expect me to call her like that night, the next night, and a couple other nights after that, just asking questions, constantly building. And then say, well, who else can I talk to? Who else can I ask questions to? And she would say, well, anybody that's around you. And I was really surprised at the amount of people that were willing to say, let's take some time. Some of them, I'm ashamed that I did it, because I didn't know, because I'd go back and say, hey, I talked to this person. But they taught me a lot about navigating spaces. And when we look at, personal growth and figuring out what our pathway is, we have to go into some of these areas that are completely unfamiliar to us, that are completely foreign. But what that does is it helps us to grow. It helps us to become a better person, a better leader. The more arrows we have on the quiver, the better prepared we are when we go into an unfamiliar place. We're not all going to be ready for every single opportunity that comes to us. It's just not going to happen. But what you can do is be best prepared for most situations. And as a leader, that's what you want to do. These CEOs and CFOs and CDOs of all these institutions and corporations, they still don't know it all. Trust me. They're still learning. And that's the difference between them being in that leadership position and some that want to be leaders, is they know that they have to still learn. They're still learning people skills. They're still learning financial skills. They're still learning skills that how their company is going to be integrated or how they're going to market to their customers. They're constantly learning. And that's what you have to understand is, and not be intimidated by them because they're all in the same process we are. If you're in that growth mindset, you stay in that process of learning. You stay in that process of trying to gain understanding of your space. And you're opening up your lens so that you can grow more. So, I talk a lot, but I'm trying to calm down now. I want to talk to you. I want to find out if you have any questions for me. If you can think of any insights that you've always just kind of wondered about stepping into leadership. Or if you have a plan and you want to figure out just one little thing that may be able to guide you in the right direction, I want to know. So I'm going to take a second. Anybody have any questions? No. There we go.
So to do business, we need to understand the law. I feel like this is my weakest area. Where should I go learn about that?
So the question is, where to go to learn about law?
Yeah, business law.
Business law?
Yeah, what?
Now you can take the courses in business law. You can actually go to the Utah bar, and they'll give you information. But go to attorneys. Go to a law firm that is doing corporate law right now, and they will have people to help you. Even if it's the intern there that's doing the same thing and learning from you.
Yeah.
Walk through their doors. Find one or two people that are willing to take the time to talk to you. Tell them your interest. Tell them you're curious, and they'll be more than happy to help you. I can't think of one institution that will say, "Nah, we don't have time." Most of them are going to be willing to help you out because you walk through that door, and you may have another opportunity because of that fact. They may say, "Well, tell us when you graduate. Tell us what your next steps are. Where you're going to go to school next. We'd really be interested in that." You may end up getting a scholarship out of it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But they want to know that you stepped through the door. But I tell you what, I just went through a course on law with my diversity and inclusion program with you. You can have it. So I tell you what, it's tough. But I went through something similar with law, just to give a little caveat. I was asked to join the Utah State Board Bar Association board. And when someone said, we want you to join this board, and it's we govern all of the attorneys and everybody for the entire state. I said, what? I had no idea what I was doing. This is brand new from this July. But then I said, I told my wife again, I said, hey, guess what I'm going to do? She said, what? What do you know about that? I said, I don't know anything about it. I said, but I'm going to do it. And she's like, oh, okay. And what I did again was I just started talking to people. I just started asking questions from all the different folks that have been in law and that are out of law right now, and also those that are still in the practice of law. And just asking questions about what is important to you. What does this board do for you? What does the commission do for you? How does it improve you as an individual? And also, how does it improve the practice of law overall for the state of Utah? And I was astonished at the amount of information I got and the amount of sharing from, and it's intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, I'm going to go talk to these lawyers. We have lawyers, well, most people have lawyers up here, but lawyers, are folks that have done a lot of work to get to where they are. And to walk up to them and approach them, a lot of times they take a step back and they're like, really? You want to know that about us? And not just about a certain law, you want to know about the practice, the need. They're more than willing to share. So I would say step through that door and go after it. I've been in sales since 1985. And one of the things I learned in sales that I enjoy that people say is the hardest thing to do are cold calls. Mm-hmm. And I just thought it was the most amazing thing in the world. Again, I treated it just like my professors in college. I said, well, they're not going to come around that desk and punch me in the face. So that's the only thing that can stop me from going in that door. So I would knock on doors, and of course people say, I don't have time to see you, get out of here. Move move on your merry way, and then I go back again. And you know that in marketing and sales program here, they teach you the rule of 5. That you know about the 5th time plus, you start to get answers. It's true. You keep on knocking at doors, and people sometimes will go, "Oh, here he is again. All right, here, come, tell me one thing." And other times I'll say, "Hey, you know, you happen to be in the right place at the right time. I have a constraint here that I need some help with, and I think you can help me with it." And that's just by being consistent and being, I call it being pesky, but being consistent. And it's amazing what people will do if they know that you're authentic. They know that you're curious. They know that you truly want an answer from them. Don't approach people if you don't have a plan in place on how you're going to spend that time with them. Don't just walk up to them in the street and say, "Hey, I want to talk to you about something." And they'll say, "Well, ding, 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 ding," and you don't have an answer for those things. You're out the picture. When you approach people, you walk into their door, have a plan, have your questions ready, be prepared. Because when they see that you're prepared, that gives them an idea that you're serious. And that's all they want to know, is that you're serious and you're not going to waste your time. Talking to somebody and helping somebody out is not time wasting. But sitting there with somebody who's going, you know, what can you tell me about being a lawyer? They don't want to talk to you. Okay? You ask them about what impact does your decisions have on the people that you work with throughout the judicial system or the court system in which you work. Then you start to get a conversation going. So it's critical. When you do that to business, if you walk up to a CEO and he says, "Hey, glad to meet you, you're at a conference," and you know, he wants to do a picture, give you one of these, whisper in his ear, "You know, I hear that your stock is dropping, and I think I know why." And now they're going to pay attention to you. Okay? But have a plan, have a way to get their attention. Make sure that they know that, you know, their time is going to be valued by spending it with you. Do we have any other questions?
This global pandemic, do you see it as just a bump in the road and we're just going to get past it and then go back to normal, or is this going to have really long-lasting consequences?
I'm not an expert. The question was, is this global pandemic going to impact us?
The way people do business.
The way that people do business? I'm going to have to say yes. A couple of things are taking place. We're just talking about, we're talking about Zoom, WebEx,
Right.
Teams. Those type of interactions are going to become a norm for business operations. What we're going to have to do because of that is we're going to have to figure out how to best perform or utilize those mechanisms of technology to be able to get the most out of our business. The people working from home now, that is a huge shift.
Yeah.
Right now, corporations downtown are figuring out how much space they can get rid of because they don't need everybody to come back. So that's going to impact the real estate downtown. You know, you're going to see these big old giant buildings slowly going away because they don't have people to fill the space. So there's going to be a huge shift in our economy. We're going to see the way that each and every one of us work, even if we have to physically go someplace, change. The protocols are going to change. So there's going to be a lot of things, we don't even know what different impacts are going to take place right now. But we're starting to see little things happen. And I was listening to a report the other day about our clean air and how, you know, we haven't had the influx of smog and everything since people have been working at home. Those things are going to shift. They're going to say, well, wait a minute, we can help our environment by also changing the way that we go to work. It's really going to change things. But now we got people buying more laptops and more pieces of electronic equipment. What about the disposal of those when they reach the top of their life cycle? There's all these things that we have to consider that we sometimes just don't think about. The impacts on our environment, in our society, in our workplaces. So I see a whole lot of changes coming. We just don't know what they are. It's going to be really interesting. But I'm going to retire before all that is. You know, so I'll be fishing and hearing about it, and I'll be like, oh, that's okay. That's all right. I'll leave it up to you young folks.
Thank you.
That was a great question. Anybody else? We got lots of time.
I have a question, Shawn. So, when you started out in business and the beginning of your career, I'm wondering, first question is, what was your motivation then? What was your why when you were first starting to do things on the business side? And then I'm wondering, on the philanthropic side, what was your why or your motivation to do those pursuits?
Okay. I have to
And how
expose
they
myself.
changed, how they-
Yeah.
You know,
I think you know the answer to where it's coming from. When I first got into business and sales, my number one motivation was money. I came out of college and you don't have a lot of money. I had a little nest egg. I spent a season in professional football. I came out and I had a slight nest egg, but when I bought my first home, that was gone. So I was motivated by money. And I was doing some research. I was working in a warehouse for the company I worked now. And I was doing some, little mental research, and I was thinking, wait a minute. Here's these guys that come in here every single day in the morning, and they leave, and then they come back in the afternoon. Sometimes they don't even come back. But what are they doing? So I went and talked to our chairman of the board at the time, and he says, oh, those are outside sales guys. And I was like, huh. I said, how much money do they make? He's like, what? I said, I just want to know how much money they make. He goes, well, you have to go through this process to kind of, go through different parts of the company, and then maybe you get the chance. And I said, I just want to know how much money they make. So he told me, and I said, oh, I want that job. He's like, hey, now look, you got to go through this process, and we'll see how you do, and then maybe you'll get the chance. And I was motivated at that point to go through the process, get through it as fast as I possibly could to get to that point where I could make that money. But of course, when you get there, you find out that that's not really the money that you make, unless you've been there for a while and you've got a whole bunch of accounts and you're doing certain things. But I still can see that carrot before me. But fast forward, 10 or 15 years, I started to still look around our community, look around our environments and see that not everybody had those opportunities I did to grow and to develop and to have those resources that I had. Even though I wasn't making a lot of money, I still could put a roof over my head, I could feed my family, I could have a car, used car, but I still had a car to drive. And I was still communicating with most of the people in the warehouse and the people outside of our business in our community, and I'm going, folks are still struggling. I said, in my pathway is not everybody's pathway. This is mine as an individual, what I chose to do. And even though they don't choose to do what I do, something is a little harder for them for certain reasons. There's something that's creating this barrier for them. So I really got interested in researching. My degree from the University of Utah is in sociology, so I already had that seed planted. So I started thinking, how can I help our community get better? How can I help the people in our community reach a better place? And I thought, man, I don't have a whole bunch of money and stuff to throw at them, but I do have something that's even more valuable, and that was my time. So I spent my time working for one of our congressmen, and just starting out real small as a voting district chairman, and this was in the late 80s. And then I started working with the NAACP back in the late 80s. And I was just a member, but I was doing some of the community stuff with them. And then I thought, well, it's got to be more than just this. So I started going out and finding other nonprofits, and I didn't even know what a nonprofit was or how they operated, but I just got connected to them, so that when I would talk to somebody about what they were doing, I could connect the people. And that's probably my biggest strength in getting to where I am on a lot of the boards and things I serve on, is I'd like to connect people. So if I know the CEO of the United Way here in Salt Lake, I want to get them connected to people in the school board, so that they can help, and their programs can be illuminated to these groups to help certain people. So it took me probably 10 or 15 years after I first started in sales. My kids became teenagers, and I had a little bit more time because teenagers don't like their parents anyway. So I was just kind of like, what am I going to do with all this time? So that's when I started to really make that shift into the philanthropic activities that I work on. And then also getting involved in understanding how entities work. and the power structures. You know, I say power structure is not a bad thing. It's just a term that we use to, know the pecking order and who's doing what. So once I figured out that all of these entities had boards and boards of directors, which I wish they were all paid, I'd be all right then. But then they have boards of directors, and then they have the entities, and then they have the people that they serve. Once I figured that out, I said, well, I still have that ultimate asset that I'm willing to give, and that's my time. So I started investigating, getting on boards, and learning how they operate. Learning what the purpose of a board was. It's not to run the entity. Most people think, well, the board runs everything. Well, no, not exactly. We have input, we suggest, and we do make a few decisions, but for the most part, it's up to whatever entity that we're working with to make those final decisions. So that's where I started to spend a lot of time. And I found that my impact and influence was able to be expanded by being a participant on as many of those boards as I possibly could. Now, I still say no to some for certain reasons, but for the most part, the ones I choose, I pick and choose, have an influence on individuals that don't have a means of their own to be successful. And that's what I try to do. When we look at education is a huge one for me. I mean, I was so happy and blessed to be a part of this, board of trustees here at Salt Lake Community College because of the emphasis on students, the emphasis on the community. That just drove me to be able to just get out in our community and start to spread the word. When I had another opportunity during that same time, to become part of the State Board of Education, I saw the opportunity for influence and impact. And though the decisions are made by a number of different people, and they're all, some things I want done just don't happen, I still was able to do the work to be able to influence things in a positive way. Just because of that little bit of lens that I had, that I was able to expand to say, what and who will this impact? And to be able to drive those thoughts down. Even if it's just one little seed that I was able to plant in people's heads about equity, or one little seed about including certain groups of people in certain types of programs, or shifting curriculums. Those type of things are really critical, that really can impact a whole lot of people when you look at institutions like educational institutions. So that was really probably my biggest thing to give, and I still do to this day, is my time. And we can all do that. When we look at, this is one of the things, phrases I'm telling too much about, that I really can't stand, is I don't have the time. I tell people, ooh, you're talking to the wrong person. you just don't have the willingness to dedicate a piece of your time. Because time is valuable. We're only given so much time on this earth. And I told myself, because of that fact, I'm going to give whatever I can, down to the bone, where I can. As long as I'm not negatively impacting my family, my friends, and my loved ones. And I can do this. So I pick up these things and I work on it. And, I know sometimes I don't sleep a lot, but I got forever sleep when that day comes. So I implore you to take a look at your time and where you spend it. Now, if you spend your time in the right way, like knocking on those doors, by talking to people that are of influence, that can help you, you're going to find those rewards come to you very, very quickly. But you just have to do it. You have to take that scary step. Walk through that door you don't want to walk through. Talk to that person you're afraid to talk to. And you'll see that great things will happen for you. Anybody? Viewer?
Who else has a question? We think you have a question.
We got a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, you can ask me things about me too. I'm not too shy. Hey.
Who has a question about his football career?
You said you had a pro year?
Yeah, I was with the Chicago Bears.
Bears.
Yeah, way back in the day. My senior year at the University of Utah, I was planning on being drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. That was one team that was talking to me a lot. give me some kudos. 3 games left in our season, I got my knee blown out. So I thought, I'm done forever. No big deal. And once the season was over, I started running these 5 and 10K road races all around town. You can tell, right? And I had dropped a lot of weight. I was just enjoying doing that. I got a call in the middle of the day, and I thought it was my friends playing a joke with me. And they go, hey, what are you doing nowadays? And I was like, man, we ain't worried about what I'm doing. And I said, I'm working, I'm working out all the time, and, I'm running these road races. And he goes, well, this is Coach so-and-so with the Bears, and he wants you to come to camp. And I was like, click. And the phone rang again immediately. He says, no, I'm not kidding, I'm serious. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah, I got a plane ticket for you, but I want you to report in 3 weeks to rookie camp. And I'm like, okay. I said, let me think about this for about 2 seconds. I said, yeah, all right. So I thought, okay, I got 3 weeks to try to gain some weight back and start increasing my weight. So I did all that, and I got to Chicago. We were in Platteville, Wisconsin. So there's a little college there in Platteville, Wisconsin that has cornfields all around it and nothing else. There's a 7-Eleven in town. And that was all there was. So we're practicing, and I'm having a ball, and it's going well. And we're doing a pass rush drill with me against the offensive lineman. And I had a 300-some pound offensive lineman dive in my ankle and blew out my ankle in practice. Practice is most of the accidents happen. So I spent my first year on injury reserve. And then the second year came back, and I was like, okay, I know they're going to be ready for me. And they had just signed a rookie named William Refrigerator Perry, aptly in my same position. I'm thinking, wait a minute, so I had this dude right here, and my job, something ain't right. So the writing was on the wall, and I had a veteran tell me, he says, no, don't get waived, resign so that you're always a part of the NFL. NFL, for all of you that don't know, stands for not for long. So I resigned, I did a letter of resignation, so I would remain an alumni forever and ever in the NFL. But that was my short-lived career.
Okay.
So, like most folks, the average is about 3.5 years or so, but some of the lucky ones stay healthy and last a long time. But, any question?
Did any of your kids follow in your footsteps?
No, my son played, he was a quarterback at Brighton High School. He went to play at Weber State, but he blew his shoulder off for the 3rd time and couldn't play football anymore. My daughter played basketball for Southern Utah and Dixie. She graduated from Dixie as a teacher. She's a school teacher. But she played all 4 years of college basketball, and I had another daughter who was a dancer. So everybody's kind of all over the board. I'm more rooting for those grandkids. But it was a great experience. It taught me an awful lot about preparation, taught me a lot about leadership, taught me about, the world isn't built around me, which was a hard thing, being a young athlete. You think, this is my world, I'm running these things. And you find out real fast that, you're just a regular old person, you gotta go do your thing. And it also allowed me to meet a lot of people and to see and feel what it's like to see people that are much better at what you think you're good at, do their thing. One of my greatest experiences in football in the NFL, we were at a game playing the Raiders. And I'm standing on the sideline, here's the sideline right here, and Marcus Allen runs around the corner. And he runs by me like this. Marcus Allen's a big dude, he's probably like 6'2", 225. He went by and I went, whew. And at first I thought, I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear his feet touch the ground. I didn't hear a thing. Then I thought, who's going to catch him? No, I caught him when I played. He was gone. And I thought, this is a great athlete. I played on the same team with Walter Payton. I saw him from the bottom of a pile of men weighing all sorts of different weights pop out, and he's running full speed by the time he got to the last body. And I thought, that's an incredible athlete. I think I'm good, but these dudes are a whole lot better. Guys like Richard Dent, he was my mentor, he was my buddy on the team. he's just happy-go-lucky, but, you know, he had that one thing that most of us have, that little switch, turn on and off, you know, where you turn to somebody else when you're in the field. And I watched the things that he did, and I was like, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I had that skill set. You know, no matter how hard I would work on it, I knew that I just couldn't get to where those guys were. But there were no animosities there. There was just an understanding that if I wanted to even get close, I had to do the work. And those are the type of things that you learn in sports and in business and in school. You know, you see some students that are just flying by, they've got great grades, they're doing their thing. And I would always, my sister, I can't stand my sister. She wouldn't even study for a test, and she'd get an A. And I was like, I don't know how she does that. And here I am all night, and my mom's checking the door, you still studying? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And anyway, but it taught me that I had to focus on these things a lot differently than other people did, because there is such thing as natural skills, but it's not across the board. Everybody has a weakness. Everybody has something they have to work on to get better. You know, we're all in this process, constantly trying to grow. So, you know, don't let something that may deter you for just a second get deep down inside you. Shake it off. Shake it off. Because you can always build upon that or something else that'll help bring you to where you want to be. Oh, look at that. You did good.
Any last questions?
Good. Yeah, you guys can connect with me on LinkedIn. Love to connect with you. And if you have questions and things on there, just message me. Willing to help. And if you get done with school, if you say, hey, I want a connection in this industry, if I have that access to that, I'll make sure that you get connected with somebody to the best of my ability. I can't promise everything, but I sure do try.
You know, with everybody.
I love to connect folks. And that's really good. I appreciate you having me here today, and appreciate you being a student here at Southern Community College, because this is a great institution. You know, I did things kind of backwards. I graduated from the University of Utah, and I came here because when I told you about me trying to learn those skill sets to be a salesman, I looked everywhere I could to find a place that could teach me about sales and marketing. And right here was where it was. So every morning, I told my boss, I said, I'm going to school for 2 classes. See, I didn't ask. You see, you caught that? I'm going to school for 2 classes every morning. That's all at community college. And he's like, what? I said, yep. I need 2 classes in the morning, and I'm going to do that until I'm done, until I graduate. He's like, okay. And, you know, I didn't expect him to say no, but I was hoping he didn't say no. But they allowed me to do that because they knew that I was working on improving myself. And that's what I mean when I said earlier. Ask. Don't be bold. Take those chances. People are going to say, yeah, if you're working on yourself, they're going to benefit from it. Not just you. So they're going to be more than willing to help you out. So even if you do it backwards like me, go from the 4-year institution to come back. But I never quit going back to school. I got my master's quite a few years later. And that was hard too, because I had kids, and they were doing their thing. I was doing classes at night, and I was doing it physically, so I'd go to campus at night. It was tough for 2 years, but paid off. It really pays off. So keep up the hard work. Well, I know it's not easy. Been there, done that.